All right. Welcome into another ABA video. As always, AJ here. We got both commissioners on for a very special video. We're going to be doing an ABA Retro Redraft. That's what we're calling it. We're
Yes,
going to go
sir.
through with all the guys in the league, 16, that have been playing games this season. And we're going to say, hmm, if we knew that they were this good or this bad, how would the draft have gone? Andrew Traina,
Mhm.
how we feeling?
I'm feeling confident. I feel like I have a really good grip on how all the players perform. And I think I know how to build a team that works together.
So you're drafting for the Enforcers and the Tundra, two winning
Mhm.
teams. Do you
Yeah.
think that you can make these teams better in the redraft?
Um, yeah, I think I'm going to make them the best teams that I can. So
Mm,
I think they should be good.
all right. Tom, you are
Yes, sir.
drafting for the River Dragons and the Griffins. Two very different teams. One's a winning team, one's a losing team. How do we think that the
Yes.
redraft is going to go for these guys?
I think that it's going to go great. I think that people don't realize that you actually need a balance of athleticism and ball skill and IQ. There's so much that actually goes into it. That's why Griffins were originally supposed to be the best team, and now they're 0-5.
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this too, because you saw the actual pre-draft or post-draft videos that we posted not too long ago, and everyone was saying that they thought the Griffins were a good team. And that shows you how on paper stuff might not look how it is in practice. Well, we are about to see how practice translates to paper when we do this retro redraft. Are we ready, boys?
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
All right. So on the clock first, with the first overall pick, picking for the Kentucky Enforcers, Andrew Traina.
Yep. So with the first pick, you know, nothing's gonna change from what happened in real life. It's gonna be Max. Um, He's got the most leads the league in rebounds. He's second in shooting percentage at a higher volume than the guy in first. He's a playmaker from the post. He really can do it all. He's gonna be my franchise guy for the Enforcers.
That's a good pick right there. That's a good pick right there. Now on the clock, second overall pick, Columbus River Dragons, Tom.
You know what? Franchise player, it's got to be Gabe. It's got to be Gabe. I don't know who else it would be.
That's good. He's a very, very talented player, leads the league in scoring. Gabe Christopher. Very, very efficient. Most efficient game of the year this past week. 8 for 10 shooting, 80%. I think that's a league record. Pick number three, Andrew Traina. Who are the Montreal Tundra selecting?
It's kind of boring, but I gotta do it. I'm gonna take Ashton. He's just the most skilled player on the board right now. It's not a super hard decision for me.
Yeah, pretty chalk so far, going the way it normally is. And now I feel like maybe we see a change. Tom, who are the St. Louis Griffins selecting it for?
I think this might be a little bit of a surprise. I have to take AJ at my number 4, team
Mm.
captain of the Griffs.
That is a very big surprise to me. Uh,
Yeah.
you got any reasoning for that one?
So I mean, there's only a select few people that genuinely go to the court by themselves to put in work, and you are one of them. You have the capabilities to lead a team, and unlike Matt, you would have made adjustments. You wouldn't have gotten to 0-5. You can lead a team. That's my
Mhm.
reasoning.
All right. Moving into round two.
Mm.
A lot of talented players still on the board. This is going to be to Tom, just like the snake draft in real life. The St. Louis Griffins are on the clock.
I'm gonna have to go with um gonna have to go with Newman.
Matt
Three
Newman.
games, 22 points. That's so far the best you can get. He has the most points per game with only that many games played. So you don't know if he's got more in the tank or not.
Very, very talented player. See how he would pair up with AJ Miskines would be a very interesting team fit indeed. Moving on to the Montreal Tundra, Andrew Traina, pick number 7.
I'm really torn right here. I have the classic debacle of, do I draft for fit or do I take the best available player on the board? And I think I have to take the best available player on the board. And so the Tundra are going to be selecting Tom here. He's got the second best plus minus in the league. He's just, hasn't played bad at all, like any of the weeks so far.
Very talented player, Tom Lynch. And we're circling the conversation right now that many people have thought, which is who is going to be the 4th captain next year and potentially pick their own team. Tom Lynch, moving on after getting picked.
Yes.
2, your selection. 4,
On to the
the
River
Columbus River
Dragons. So I'm off the board. I'm gonna have to go with Matt Willard. A Matt Willard Gabe duo. Oh my God. That post game is crazy right there. And Gabe can space the floor for Matt. That's just beautiful spacing.
I agree. I think that could be very, very talented, dynamic duo. Andrew Traina, last pick in the 2nd round, pick number 8. Who are the Kentucky Enforcers selecting?
It's a tough one. I'm gonna, I could take a risk. I'm gonna go ahead and take.
Now it
Hang
starts
on.
getting interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely gets a lot tougher right here. I'm gonna take Eric. He's sneaky. He's got sneaky amount of points. He's like 6th in points, I think. Maybe not the greatest shooting percentage, but a lot of people in this league don't have the greatest shooting percentage. He does, I just think he does what you need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, while our general managers take a second to examine the board and think about some of their options, we are halfway through the draft. And I feel like now is a good time to mention that there are more than 16 people who have played in the league for us this year. 2 people have been excluded from the draft, the redraft, the retro redraft, because they have not played enough games. They've each played 1 game apiece. Jackson Schlaboe and Aaron Quinn. Both of them have played 1 game for their teams. So we did not feel, even though Jackson was drafted before, that we have seen enough from this season to put them into the redraft. Also, it works out nicely because 16 for 4 rounds, exactly like how it was supposed to be. Andrew Traina, you are back on the clock with the first pick in the 3rd round for the Kentucky Enforcers.
Enforcers, they have their guard, they have their big. I'm looking for like a wing guy, someone who could do a little bit of both. There's not great options on the board right now for it. Right now, I feel like Tom would have been ideal here. I took him earlier. I think I'm gonna go with. I'm leaning. I'm between 2 people, and they're both currently Max's teammates. I think I'm gonna go with Noah. Is gonna be my final selection. I was just hesitant to pick him because of the lack of production that we've seen, but
are we still picking based on potential?
Slightly, yeah, that's part of it. And I do think he is like raw, like very, I think he is talented. It hasn't worked out so far.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I would like to interject and just say, fun fact, Noah has the lowest 2-point percentage other than everybody else who has 0%, which includes Jackson Schlaboe, Andrew Traina, Cameron Block, Quinn, Dan Kelly, Nick DeAndrea, and Matthew Willard, which is actually surprising. Yeah, Nick Von Bergen has never shot a 3.
Yet.
So,
Tom, moving on to your pick.
All right. Andrew, who'd you take?
I just took Noah.
Okay, and then who'd you take in 8?
I took Eric.
Oh, okay. All right. So this is for River Dragons?
Columbus.
Columbus River Dragons. All right. Okay. This just makes so much sense to me. Gabe and Matt both are astounding defensively and astounding rebound. Gabe with 75, almost leading the league. He's second, I believe. And then Matt also has 32 rebounds, you know?
Mhm.
Those are quite average numbers. Oh, actually, Nick Von Bergen beats Gabe in rebounds, but
Nick Vaughn is a beast. The only thing he doesn't
yeah,
bring is scoring.
yeah. But nonetheless, with Gabe and Matt both post presence more than 3-point presence,
Mhm.
with Gabe in a little bit of 3-point range, I think they need more spacing because they have the rebounding. So with the 10th overall pick, I have to select Jimmy Pusatier,
Yeah.
who is a 33% from the three.
And it's not even like he hasn't taken that many. He's taken 9. And to be
Yeah,
completely honest, with how many shots he has taken, 9 is not a lot. Or
yeah,
9 is a lot.
yeah. Three for 9 is pretty good from three.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Moving on to Andrew Traina for the Montreal Tundra, who is their third round selection.
So the Tundra, they got Tom, they got Ashton. That's a really good first two pick. Um, they definitely need a big here. And there's some good bigs left on the board.
Yes, sir.
The one I'm going to take is Nick Von Bergen.
Mhm.
You know, 80 rebounds. The one thing that does jump out on me is he leads the league in turnovers,
Yeah.
right? That's a little worrying, but I think if he just does what he has to do, and honestly, turnovers compared to like missed shots is like the same thing pretty much.
He's got a pretty good amount of blocks, too.
And
Like,
he
he has
doesn't
a
shoot.
case for depoy again.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a good pick.
I believe that is a very good pick with high upside.
12 steals too. That's about
He's
like that's a
he's got
lot
a
of
really
steals.
good case. Like, I know people are thinking that it might be open closed. I
And
think
Tom
very-
and Ashing are both like they can score the ball. They don't need Nick to score. So I
yes.
think that's a perfect fit.
So moving on to the last pick in the third round, who are the St. Louis Griffins taking?
Mhm. Okay. Let's see here. So who'd you just pick?
He
Nick.
just picked Nick Von Bergen.
Nick Von.
Ding dong.
Honestly, see, some may question this team so far with AJ and Matt Newman, question their scoring ability,
Mhm.
but man, Matt Newman is a claymore shooter. You cannot let him
Yeah,
sit on the line. And their post game is crazy, honestly. AJ with putbacks, Matt Newman with the hooks. I do think there needs to be a little spacing. That's why I'm gonna have to go with somebody to space the floor out a little bit. I'm going with Cam Block.
ooh, okay.
Very small, very agile. I think he can get around and get past these big men setting screens.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty interesting fit right there too. Because both of them are guys that can absolutely suck in everyone to the post and get some open shots to the outside.
Yes, sir.
Now, because it's snake draft, the Griffins are right back on the clock for round 4.
All right. I also think to add to that, I'm gonna have to go with okay. Let me check out defensive stats here. I would say Traina, but Traina is a bit of a defensive liability, it's looking like, according to the stats. According
Which
to the
I would
stats.
I would argue though for Traina on his behalf real quick that is just a matter of matchup. The games that he's been in, the matchups have not been in his favor because I feel like Traina matching up against someone like Cam is a little different than him matching up against someone like Nick DeAndrea or Matt Newman, you know?
Yeah, that is true. Andrew definitely does affect the floor in more ways than just defense. And I think that's evident in his game. Nonetheless, I think this team lacks the height a little bit. It has the size, but I think it lacks the height. So with that, I think I'm gonna have to go with Nick D'Andrea.
Nick D, solid choice. Very, very raw, but a lot of potential there. I respect it. I respect it. Moving forward to the last pick for the Montreal Tundra,
Mhm.
Andrew Traina. Who will we be picking?
So they got Ashton, they got Nick Von Bergen, they got Tom.
Mhm.
That's a really solid first three.
Yeah, totally.
I'm I'm thinking about it. They're very slightly undersized in my opinion, like vertically. So I'm gonna bring someone in who, you know, can help out, come off the bench and get some blocks. Well, maybe not blocks. Let's see, how many blocks?
I think I know who you're talking about, and
One block.
he had a pretty good block.
Um, the person I'm looking at has one block. I'm bringing in Nolan Anson, right? He's got. I don't really the numbers don't really justify this pick, but I like the fit.
He has a
Yeah,
lot that he brings to the table that, and I know I've had my issues, but being completely unbiased here,
Mhm.
he brings a lot of intangibles to the table. You
Yeah.
know, he's a hardworking guy, and if he drove his teammates away, it's not for a lack of heart. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I will like to interject. Two
Yes.
for 20 from three might be a liability. Second worst shooting percentage in the league from three, besides everybody with zero. But
Yeah.
um, and then you also got to think though, his numbers are a little low because of the attendance issue of him only making half the season. So
Yeah.
you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this though. This is an interesting stat while we're just talking about him because we haven't really talked about him in a little while. He has shot more shots than AJ Miskines, and he's played two less games, which is a very interesting statistic and crazy to me, but it shows how little I shoot and how much he shoots.
That
Yeah.
works really well with the Tundra team that I drafted because if Tom comes off the court, Nick's still not gonna shoot,
Yeah.
right? So Nolan coming in and being able to fill in that role, take Nick's
Yeah.
shots,
He
that
can
works out really well, in my opinion.
100%. Yeah. So moving forward to the second last pick, who are the Columbus River Dragons selecting? There are two people left.
So you have Gabe, you have Matt, you have Jimmy. You
Mm.
got to think, what else do they need? I They have the shooting abilities out wide. Only two people left in the draft. It's a little up in the air, but
This is a
I'm
hard pick.
gonna.
This is a
Yeah,
hard
it
pick
really is.
because both guys are really good, like character guys, and I would love to have either of them coming right off the
Yeah. Um.
You're gonna make Traina pick himself though.
You just gotta. I just have a little problem with You know what? Dan does edge out Andrew just barely in shooting percentage, but
He's been getting more confident as the season has gone on.
yes, Dan also almost has double the volume of Andrew, which is
Mhm.
shocking. Dan with 32 total shots, Andrew with 17.
Yeah.
Andrew with
Dan has
three
also
made,
played
Dan
in
with
every
six made.
game. Traina has played in three.
Yeah.
Yes. So on that note, I think I need to go Andrew on this team because I need somebody with low volume.
Okay. And
Yes.
that leaves Dan for me, which I think, rounds out the team pretty nicely. So
What do you got to say about Dan Kelly?
Max,
How does
Noah,
he
Eric, and Dan. Max has struggled with toxic teammates, and Dan is anything but that, you know. So I think it might help Max play better. It might help Noah play better. It might help Eric play better. I think having Dan in the locker room, he's one of those guys that makes everyone on his team play better.
Dan Kelly is one of those guys where he's an ABA fan favorite. And I don't think he would ever be the kind of guy to request a trade. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's one of those guys you love to
He's
play with.
loyal.
He's one of those guys you love to play against and you love to play with,
Hmm.
fan favorite.
Yeah. Yep.
So to recap, we're going to do this. We're going to go through the teams, and the opposing general manager is going to give his thoughts on how that team would work together. And if they are better than that version of the team that we have seen this year up to this point before the whole. So
Mm.
starting with the Kentucky Enforcers, Tom, what do we think of a team of Max, Eric, Noah, Dan Kelly?
Looking back on that, I think that team's a stinker. Absolute stinker. I think there is zero team chemistry. Actually, I just noticed this with my teams too. Barely any team chemistry. I don't know if those people have spoken multiple sentences to each other outside of the ABA.
That is such a good point.
You know, Dan Kelly isn't exactly a bucket getter. Noah has not proved to be a bucket getter. And Eric has been streaky. And then Max also too misses a the enforcers thrived because we all miss shots. Like me, Nolan, and Max, we all sucked at making shots, but we hustled to get the boards.
Yeah.
Noah, Eric aren't exactly board getters.
Yeah. So the only one you're getting hustle out of is Dan. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't.
But you think the
Max would
regular
have to
enforcers were
carry.
better than this team?
Yes, I do.
Definitely. Andrew, what do we
Yeah.
think about the new River Dragons? And I'm curious to see about this one.
Uh,
Gabe, Matt Willard, Jimmy Buckets, and Andrew Traina.
um, I think that's a team that could make a splash. They have the same back two that we saw the Tundra have for the majority of the season in Jimmy and me. And that worked pretty well for them. Jimmy and I started to find a stride as like low key a dynamic duo.
Yeah.
Not even though we never really played on the court at the same time, we just like knew, you know,
The synchronized
when they
when
needed the energy switch,
you're subbing out, like we didn't tell them when to sub out. They knew when one of them would come in the game and when they
right,
needed to switch it up.
telepathically. And then Matt and Gabe's one of the best players in the league, so obviously I think they're just a pretty solid team all around. This one.
Definitely. Do you think they're better than the real River Dragons?
Um, yeah, I think they are. No,
Because it's
that's
Matt.
tough.
It's honestly what it boils down to for me is it's Gabe and Matt Newman versus Gabe and Matt Willard.
I like Gabe and Matt Newman more, but I like me and Jimmy more than Dan and Eric.
That's a good point. So you think it's close? I would say wash then, right?
Yeah, but I guess Gabe and Matt Newman is probably more important, maybe. So
They got
maybe
chemistry.
slightly
They
the
play together
current,
a lot.
yeah, maybe slightly the current River Dragons.
Now this one's going to be interesting. Tom, what do we think about the new look Tundra after this redraft? Ashton, Tom, Nick Vaughn, and Nolan Anson.
Man, honestly, so realistically, you're replacing Nick with AJ, which I mean, maybe a tiniest bit of a downgrade just because of the putback abilities. Obviously Nick outbeats AJ in rebounding, but I think that's due to his team missing so many shots.
Yeah.
The Tundra are known for their efficiency. And
You're
when
replacing Jimmy with Tom, though, which I think is an interesting replacement.
I think that's quite the upgrade, honestly, just defensively speaking. And also driving. I think I beat Jimmy with that, but he is a better shooter.
I would argue defensively, Nick is like better than AJ in like blocks and steals too.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ has
Yeah.
one more steal, but Nick has 4 more blocks.
I think one
Yeah.
thing that is kind of underrated about the player you just mentioned's game is AJ leads the league in assists right now. And it's 100% because of his like pass first tendencies. Like he's not aggressive and he doesn't really shoot.
And his good teammates.
but his good his good teammates. But I think that's an important point where it's like that's something I think I might have on him. But I think
Yeah.
I do think it's really close because I think an Ashton and Tom dynamic duo with Nick Vaughn on the boards, if he has people to kick it out to, he's good.
Yeah. Ashton is quite pass heavy though. Nick is pass dependent.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that fares. And then Nolan, I don't know if I want those passes flowing to Nolan. I don't know if I want them flowing to me that much either, honestly.
He
But
hasn't really
I do
had much
think,
of a chance to show it, but through playing a lot of pickup with him, he can actually kind of like throw some dimes out there.
yeah,
But he's just got to
yeah,
have that trust and chemistry. Because I remember when I played pickup with him, he was tossing me lobs because he knew where I was going to be. You know,
yeah.
that's just a matter of like trust, and he knows where you are. Then he'll throw it.
I think that team is better than the current Tundra just because of the massive defensive presence.
It's interesting. I feel like Ashton could unlock Nick's offensive potential.
Oh,
With Ashton's playmaking, I think he could feed him in the post and just give him easy open looks that like even Nick would not pass up.
yeah. And I think he's the kind of leader that can do that as well.
Yeah.
Moving on to the last team, the St. Louis Griffins. Traina, what do we think of a Griffins team of AJ, Newman, Cam Block, and Nick DeAndrea?
That's a pretty big team.
It's a big team.
That is a very big team.
You got width,
It
you got length, you got wingspan, you got a little bit of bunnies,
Girth?
girth.
it kind of worries me. Cameron was drafted to space out that team,
Mhm.
although Newman is probably the best 3-point shooter on that team, right?
Yeah,
Ah, I'm not in love with this team. I mean, I feel like it's another bigs versus Twigs team. It's shades of it for sure. And we saw how that went. It was, you know,
what I think the interesting part is one, I'm not a huge fan of AJ as a captain because like I think that your captain should probably be shooting like 20 shots a game. And that's not something that you're probably going to get, even if he like switches it up. It's not something you're probably going to get from AJ in the moment. Um, I think that on this team, Newman probably takes the most shots, and I think that's a good thing. But I'm curious to see what you think, Traina, about how they match up against the actual Griffins team.
like the current Griffins team.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's a better team in the league than the current Griffins team. No,
No, not
but
the current one. I'm talking about the previous one, the
so
one that was
like,
drafted.
okay, so like the one they had majority of the season
Yep.
draft started it. Okay, I mean, I think this team's better. I think this team would win a game just purely on the size.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think they would be able to win a championship, but they would be able to win a game.
Totally. Totally. And that concludes the 2023 ABA Retro Redraft, with the big question being, if this happened, will we still see the same results that we've seen now? I think that it's a very, very interesting thing to do. And the big question going into next season, especially if I got the two commissioners here, the idea of four team captains who pick their teams is followed through, is who is that fourth team captain going to be?
It's up in the air.
Yeah. I would like to comment on the Matt Newman versus AJ shot taking debate. And I would like to say Matt Newman only averages around 15 shots per game compared to AJ's 13 shots per game. So they're not too far off.
Yeah, no,
But
100%. I
I
think that
as a
Gabe putting the keys over is something that really has benefited the River Dragons.
yes, as a official commissioner statement, we will be releasing a video of all the upcoming rule changes that they can always be changed.
Mhm.
But just I have some stuff in the brain that might get released a week or two after the season concludes.
Rule changes to the game for like the playoffs and next season, or rule changes for the upcoming season?
Possibly a rework of how teams are decided, rework of rules, drafting, combine,
Trades.
rework of everything.
We could be seeing a pretty big overhaul. You know,
Interesting. Well, you guys all know where to tune in to get all of this news. Thank you for watching another video. Thank you to our sponsors, Andrew Traina,
yeah.
who's the sponsor for today.
Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports betting app. Use code ATRAIN42 to get your deposit matched, first deposit doubled.
Yes, sir. Tommy, got another sponsor?
Diet Coke. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Would like to thank, as always, Checkers for buying us a trophy and funding the league. And as always, we stay up. A-Town stays down. Subscribe, leave a like, and we will see you all in the next video. We out.